And we're live, Madam Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this special council meeting of February the 8th, 21 to order. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Easton, Mayor of the Town of Lincoln and Chair of today's special council meeting. We're meeting electronically through Zoom during this declared emergency period. Members of the public may observe the proceedings by accessing the live webcast or at our YouTube channel. The Shononton people have called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recently, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon treaty territory. We would like to acknowledge the enduring resilience of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who call this territory home. Madam Clerk, will you please complete the roll call of council so that we can confirm today's attendance as we are holding the meeting electronically and to confirm quorum?
Thank you. Madam Mayor?
Present.
Councillor Rajima?
Here.
Councillor Russell?
Here.
Councillor Pachariva?
Present.
Councillor Brunet?
Here.
Councillor McPherson?
Here.
Councillor Miklick?
Here.
Councillor Timmers?
Here.
Councillor Reimer?
Here.
And you have quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. In addition, I would like to take a moment to welcome the staff we have joining us this evening electronically. Chief Administrative Officer Mike Kirkopoulos, Director of Finance, Administration and Innovation Lawrence Wagner, Director of Planning and Development Kathleen Dale, Associate Director of Planning and Development Matt Bruder, Director of Community Services Shannon McKay, Fire Chief Greg Hudson, Director of Economic Development and Communications Paul Deanne, Director of Public Works Dave Graham, Manager of Corporate Communications Liliana Busnello, Corporate Customer Service Administrator Deanna Phillips, and Matt Guadalumo is here to support us with the IT activities. Moderating and clerking the meeting today, we have our town clerk, Julie Kirkolos. And also joining us this evening, Regional Councillor Foster from the Niagara region is here, and Mr. Matt Miller, Principal of Grimsby Secondary School, also Lauren Grutzinger from District School Board of Niagara, and Jennifer Southward. This is a virtual meeting, and I will ask that we follow some procedures during this electronic meeting. Should there be a connection or service disruption for the chair, or if quorum is lost, the chair and or clerk will call a 10-minute recess to reconnect and to regain quorum. If quorum is lost, the meeting will be adjourned. If connection is lost from the chair, deputy mayor, or the vice chair will resume the meeting. And once reconnection is achieved, the chair will assume their role. Each member of council who wishes to speak, press the raise hand feature on your video call, and the clerk will track our speakers list today and then invite you to speak when I open it for comments or questions. Also, when I finish reading a motion and announcing the mover and seconder, the clerk will then call out the vote by reading each member of council's name out loud. Please remember to take yourselves off mute during this portion of the meeting so that you can confirm if you are in support or opposed. Also, when not speaking, please remember to put yourselves on mute. Are there any declarations of interest?
So we have Councillor Reimer up first.
Councillor Reimer.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I have two items. They're both reiterations from the council, the whole meeting. 15.5 in our agenda this evening, bylaw application 2021-14-Z556. Application by Violent Growers, the members of the co-op are customers of the company I work for. And also reiteration from our February 1st meeting, 11.2 in the minutes this evening, but the tile drainage loan, and the applicant for that loan is a customer of the company I work for.
Thank you very much. Councillor Reimer, I've asked the clerk to separate out 15.5.
Great, thank you.
And Councillor Njima?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm declaring an interest in both items 11.2 being the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of February 1st, 2021, and also item 15.5 being 2021-14Z556 bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 93-1471 as amended, and in both cases for the reason that the applicant is a client of my employer, NPG Planning Solutions. In the first case, it's a reiteration of a previous declaration, and in the second case, I will be sitting out when the bylaw is considered.
Thank you very much, Councillor Majima. Are there any announcements by members?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, we still have Councillor Miklick.
My apologies.
That's
Councillor
okay.
Mikulik.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just with regards to the Committee of the Whole minutes, February 1st, 2021, any discussions regarding those improvements?
A reiteration.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I don't see anyone else, Madam
No.
Clerk. All right. Is there anyone that has any announcements? And we're limited to 3 per person. Councillor Majima, I see your name. Madam Clerk, was Councillor Majima first?
She is, thank you.
Okay, Councillor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. An update from the Chamber. As you would know by now, Lindsay Hendricks has started on as Executive Director, and we're looking forward to marching on and continuing to be the exciting and productive Chamber we all know. For your information, membership is holding quite strong, which demonstrates the faith that our business community has in the work of the Chamber. Please say hello to Lindsay when you have an opportunity and introduce yourself. Lindsay has a strong background working for nonprofit organizations such as the YMCA of Hamilton, Burlington, and Brantford, and also the Ontario Power Generation Winter Festival of Lights. She has a degree in events management and broadcast media communications, and a positive attitude and a passion for events and community engagement. As for upcoming events, there is on February 24th, a Business After 5, and Robert Salowich, project manager for On-Demand Transit, will be from the region, will be presenting to Chamber members, and assuming we'll be receiving some good questions about how on-demand transit has been supporting local businesses from both a customer and employee perspective. I will continue to keep you updated as to future events, but keep in mind that the Mayor's Lunch is going to be held in April, and the golf tournament is not finalized, but tentatively scheduled for May 19th. And you will recall that in early fall, the Chamber and Rotary put together a very successful, in spite of COVID-19, golf tournament, 2-day golf tournament. So while it seems like it was just yesterday, and it kind of was, the golf committee is ramping up and getting ready for the potential May 19th date, and we'll keep you up to date as those dates are finalized. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if anybody hasn't applied yet or signed up yet, the Politicians' Breakfast is on Friday, this Friday. Thank you very much, Councillor. Madam Clerk?
We don't have any other hands that are showing.
All right, thank you very much. We're now considering item 6.1, Special Council Minutes of January 18th, 2021. Do members of council have any questions or comments?
Seeing none.
There being none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor Mikulik. Approve the following meetings of council. Special council minutes of January 18th, 2021. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Brunet,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Yes,
and that carries.
thank you. We have no correspondence this evening, and we move on now to presentations. And I'd like to welcome Mr. Matt Miller, the principal of Grimsby Secondary School this evening, and also joining him are 2 additional representatives, Lauren Gretzinger, who's well known to many of us, even though he's not teaching in Lincoln at the moment, and also our local resident, very active in the community, Jennifer Southward. Matt, go ahead, and you have 10 minutes to present however you want to organize the time. And I guess my first question is, did you bring those puppies with you?
Matt, are you on mute?
I am. Now I'm not. Can
Okay.
you hear me okay? Yeah.
I'm sharing my
Mary.
screen for your presentation, so hopefully that helps.
Great. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Thanks, Mary Easton, and thank you, counselors. The blue wolves will appear during the presentation.
Oh, good.
Please see them. Yeah. I just wanted to take the moment to thank Lauren and thank Jennifer for joining me, two very prominent Lincoln residents and friends of the arts. And, we're here to tell you about something we're really excited about, which is West Niagara Secondary School opening September 2022. Having been proud principal at Beamsville District Secondary for 4 years and now at Grimsby Secondary, I'll be lucky enough to be the principal when the school opens. And I just want to share some of the details with you around what got us here and some of the exciting things to follow. So this slide shows you the background, showing that in March 2017, the Board of Trustees voted to build a new secondary school in West Niagara and a location central for students living in 3 communities of West Niagara, West Lincoln, Lincoln, and Grimsby. June 2017, the Ministry of Education approved funding for the school. We were lucky enough to be part of a naming process in the fall of 2019, where our committee suggested 3 names to our Board of Trustees, who selected West Niagara Secondary School as the name of our new school. In this past December 23rd, 2020, the Ministry of Education provided approval to proceed with the build. And in September of 2022, we'll be very excited to open our school to students all across West Niagara, about 1,500. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the school. We can go to the next slide, please. That slide shows the branding that was designed with student input. You can see a couple of things I want to draw your attention to. The first being the shield in the top corner there that shows the gold that links with Beamsville District Secondary School and South Lincoln High School, as well as the red of Grimsby Secondary School, atop navy blue and sky blue that represent the water and sky of our beautiful area in West Niagara. The light blue or Carolina kind of sky blue will be the primary color for athletics, which will allow our students to stand out in the peninsula. You can see the name chosen for athletics is the Wolfpack. And the thinking there is that we have students coming from all across our region, from Lincoln, from West Lincoln, and from Grimsby, all working together. And so we have 3 wolves for 3 towns, proudly representing all of the students across our catchment area. So the building, as you will see, is quite exciting. It's a modern, state-of-the-art school. It has bright, modern classrooms, lots of glass, lots of light. It's in a great spot for that. We're going to have a synthetic turf field with 8-lane rubberized track, 2 double gyms, and a fitness center. Very important for all of us across West Niagara, particularly those of us in the town of Lincoln. We'll have a greenhouse and full horticulture program and SHSM. You can see we'll also have other specialized tech shops listed there: transportation, manufacturing and welding, construction, cosmetology, hospitality. The hospitality program will run our student-run cafeteria, which is quite exciting. And those of you who are lucky enough to eat what Chef Marchese at Beamsville District Secondary cooks, you'll be very happy to know that that will continue at the new school. Also have computer tech, design tech, a healthcare program, all on a clean, safe, and fully remediated 20-acre property. One of the biggest advantages of our new school will be the breadth of programming we're able to offer. And the simplest way to put it is that we'll take all programs offered at Beamsville District Secondary, all programs offered at Grimsby Secondary, and add to that from student and community voice. So particularly, we will have a specialized school to community program, which we're very proud of and I loved working with at Beamsville District, as we'll also have the specialized school to work program, French immersion, which is prominent at Grimsby Secondary, as well as a host of specialist high schools majors that you can see listed below. Those are programs where students combine work experience with a bundle of courses and industry-specific certifications, and they give them a big leg up when they go on to post-secondary studies. This slide shows the athletics. There's a few things in the works also in addition to this slide that I wanted everyone to be aware of. So the way athletics works essentially is that if we have students who want to play the sports and we have a coach and staff advisor to run that sport, we will run it. So something like lacrosse, which might not appear there, we have run lacrosse at both Beamsville and Grimsby in the past, so that could certainly be looked at. And we also have at Grimsby Secondary an Olympic caliber wrestler who is actually on leave training for the Olympics. And so we hope to lean on her expertise to start up a wrestling program for our new school as well. You can go to the next slide. This slide's quite crowded, and the reason is there's so many things going on at our schools. Both at Beamsville and at Grimsby, we have an exceptionally large number of extracurriculars that are offered. And really the idea is to make sure that each student has a place for their interest and their aptitude in the school. We're very proud of how active students at both schools are. It's really, both are very incredible in that, students really have a huge, wide variety of things to participate in addition to great academics, in addition to great athletics. So if you have a look at that list there, it's pretty comprehensive, but there's also more that we couldn't fit on. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. I know something in talking to parents, and I'm trying to get out to all of our elementary schools in Grimsby, Lincoln, and West Lincoln. A question that often comes up is transportation. And how long will students who ride the bus have to be on the bus? And NSTS has taken a simulation of data based on the students we know are in our system right now. Overall average bus time for students at West Niagara Secondary will be 13 minutes. Overall, 92% of student rides are 30 minutes or less, and you can see their average ride times by municipality, particularly Lincoln being 11 minutes. So students from Lincoln will have an average 11-minute bus ride. So next steps, tendering and the start of construction in the spring when things warm up. Ongoing updates to all DSBN families in West Niagara. As you'll see later in the presentation, we have active social media accounts, which I encourage everyone to follow for pretty much daily updates we're trying to provide about interesting things to do at the school, and also use those social media outlets to reach out to parents, students, and families to get their input. We'll have more formalized student input and family input opportunities as well throughout the second semester of this year and into next year. And in particular, we want to talk about fundraising for theater we would like to include in our build. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thanks. So Lauren and Jennifer are here as representatives, along with myself, of a group called the Friends of the Arts in West Niagara. We'll be launching a fundraising campaign to raise about $2.6 million in community contribution towards the inclusion of a 750-seat theater in West Niagara Secondary School. Those of you who has had a chance to visit Greater Fort Erie Secondary School that know that it will be a state-of-the-art theater. 750 seats is about the size of the Performing Arts Center in St. Catharines, so we're talking about a sizable venue that will certainly have impact not only on our students and families at school, but also in the community. So it's a very usable community resource. We have a lot of letters of support already. I believe we're at 20 now. There's a list there that you can have a look at, including the Grimsby and Lincoln Chambers of Commerce, the Grimsby and Lincoln Rotary Clubs, the Lincoln Leapers, which I, of course, have a spot in my heart for. My daughter is a proud Lincoln Leaper, as well as many other businesses in Lincoln, as well as the other two communities. In terms of why we want to include a theater, this is really a once-in-a-generation chance to provide a facility of this type, not only for school use, but also community use. And if you look around the board to other centers that have theaters like this, including Welland Centennial, Greater Fort Erie Secondary, they're used on a very, very regular basis by the community and are available at a very reasonable cost through school rentals. Not only would the theater allow us to provide robust programming and extracurricular opportunities for our students, but a 750-seat venue, 5 minutes from downtown Beamsville, 5 minutes from downtown Grimsby, and approximately 12 minutes from downtown Smithville would bring a lot of dance competitions, music recitals, you name it, any sort of thing that people have to travel to a theater out of town, they would be able to do it in town, keeping their dinners and other events local, which would be great for our communities. The school is centrally located, which would provide a great opportunity for all this business impact as well as the student impact in the school. Thanks. We'll go to the next one. Yeah, so the highest rate for a large theater in the DSBN rental plan is $135 per hour. That's for a profit-making business, and that is scaled all the way down to $0 per hour. And there's a number of steps in between. So you can see for a 750-seat venue, that's a very reasonable cost as far as rentals, and that's outside, of course, of the partnership agreements that are sometimes formed between the school board and towns or other businesses. The DSBN has allocated 4.2 million of the 6.8 million from non-pupil-based funds. And importantly, this is a resource that the community would be able to access quite easily and at a reasonable price, and would not be responsible for the other costs associated with utilities, caretaking, etc. So before we get to our final here, you can see our social media listed there. I'm just wondering if Jennifer Southward would like to say a few words just about a community perspective on our build.
I'm unmuted now. Good evening, Mayor Sandra and the council members. I'm happy to be here this evening to support the Friends of the Arts West Niagara. As many of you know, I was the Lamplighter Tour producer in Lincoln from 2004 to 13, and then continued on for another 3 years to help out with fundraising for this event. Back then, in 2004, we were a small group of Rotarians that got together with an idea that had come from another community, namely Waterford. We had no idea what the response was going to be. We started planting this little seed, first to community members who we assessed might have were leaders in various roles, and who we needed to buy into our vision at the time. We found them and they happily hopped on board. Then we needed to find individuals to bring creativity and energy to key roles within the event. And like sunshine and water, they came out of the woodwork. Then we needed to have committed community sponsors, business sponsors, more sunshine, more water, more growth, and of course, an audience to sustain us year after year. As an aside, our tickets of more than 660 often would sell out in a day with very little marketing on our part. In the town of Lincoln, the Lamplighter Tour is going into its 18th year, with plans underway this year, if they're able, given the pandemic, to tell the story of Cave Springs Farm in Lincoln. Over these years of involvement, I've grown to understand a number of things. First of all, we have a tremendous amount of talent in our community. Let's cultivate that and let's keep it in our community. We have a tremendous amount of business support in our community towards the arts. We saw that year after year in Lamplighter when we reached out to the business community and they were on board with us 100%. We have a wonderful town council who have stepped up to the plate when we wanted to find a community project with which to apply our funds. Back in 2009, we partnered with you and were able to refurbish Charles Daly Park to the tune of $160,000. We have a tremendous amount of support in our general community towards the arts, as seen through the volunteers that we have. We had over 100 volunteers every year. We had robust ticket sales, and we had a great success with the Sunset Music Series as well. That would see sometimes more than 1,000 people attending a weekly music event every Tuesday in the summer. In my opinion, the Lamplighter Tour and theater also helps to build our community. It brings people together from differing backgrounds and ages for a shared experience and purpose. It develops teamwork and all good attributes of working on a team, and can be performed even if you aren't athletically inclined, which is important for lots of kids in the community. Theater is a lot more than just actors also, albeit we couldn't put a production together without good actors, and we couldn't continue to have our success without them. But in fact, many got more excited about the behind the scenes production than being on stage. To have a community theater in conjunction with District School Board of Niagara is such a win-win. And again, in my opinion, to not have a community theater would be a missed opportunity. There is much going on behind the scenes, whether it's a theater or dance or music production, that requires creativity, teamwork, communication skills, a desire to learn new things, as well as developing new skills or passions and building confidence. To cultivate these skills as part of a school curriculum would most certainly round out an educational experience, not to mention that any one of these is a learned art form that could take someone on a path to a future career. Also, when it comes to lifelong learning, imagine adult education courses oriented towards theater, dance, or music production. The possibilities are endless in that regard. In conclusion, I believe
You're on track.
Okay. In conclusion, I believe the proposed theater is a wonderful opportunity and would encourage the town of Lincoln to endorse such an endeavor for the long-time betterment of our community and the wider community of West Niagara.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And I just want to make note that I've just had a message from Jennifer Taves, and of course, she's one of your colleagues, and I know that she's also looking at this from not from the Lamplighters' perspective per se, but certainly from a general, the general impact that the performing arts has. So thank you very much for that. Matt, we'll turn it back to you. If Lauren has something to say, he should be quite tight because we try to be fair with everyone that comes.
As you wish, Mayor Easton.
Thank you, Lauren.
Simply, I think I know you all around this table, and I cannot encourage the town of Lincoln to continue the role that it's always taken as the synergy that makes things happen. We did it in Vineland with 20 Valley, and I didn't get a theater there, but this is an opportunity that I know that Lincoln is the most positive about. So I appreciate the support that all of you are going to give.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Good to see you again this evening as well. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you very much, Principal Matt Miller. This is a good overture. All right, members, any comments?
We have Councillor Russell up first, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Matt, to Jennifer, and to Lauren. Again, thank you very much for the presentation. Again, I grew up and went to Welland Centennial, so I know the value of having a theater and auditorium as part of my high school experience, but also as part of that community experience. I know how important it is, not only for, again, theatrical performances, but just the amount of uses that the community does get out of it. Again, it is hugely important. And I know that I do have a special interest in West Niagara Secondary School, as both my girls will eventually go there and my niece and nephew will go there as well. So again, I think this is something very important and that we should do what we can to support it. My question is, again, of the 2.6 million that you're looking to raise some funds for, what's your deadline on timing to get that raised? Is there a hard date you need to have it completed by?
There is not. No, we have to demonstrate to the Ministry of Education that we have an active fundraising group, and we do have some time, but we do need to get approval to build the theater from the Ministry of Education, and we need that active fundraising to be a part of that approval.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Your Worship, through you, one more follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, is there anything specifically that you would ask for either council or staff to support you guys in this endeavor?
Well, certainly if you'd consider financially supporting us, that would be ideal. And if you do want to continue that conversation, it would be with Stacy Veld, who's our superintendent of business at the DSPN.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Madam Clerk.
We have Councillor Timmers up next.
Councillor Timmers, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Through to Matt and Lauren and Jennifer, thank you so much for being here tonight. A couple of my questions were just answered, but I am just so impressed with this entire presentation. The branding is fantastic. The Wolf Pack, I love it. I wanted to ask you how it came about, the Wolf Pack. Were there students, all three communities involved in naming?
Yeah, we had about a month-long process that included students at elementary and secondary schools in Lincoln and Grimsby and West Lincoln, and we had some suggestions and mulled them over, and Wolfpack was actually one of those student suggestions. So a student who, yeah, is a very active part of our school and had a great suggestion.
Fantastic. I love it. And the programming, everything is just outstanding. And, you know, I'm a past BDSS student and my sons all went there, and looking forward to this new school, and with my grandchildren, and many of my family will be going there. The thought of having a theater is just the most exciting piece of it, in my opinion. It would just be so great for all three of our communities to have a space like that would be open to public use as well. And, you know, the benefits, Jennifer, you spoke very, very, you know, clearly on the benefits of the theater. So I absolutely support it, and look forward to seeing this all happen. Thank you very much, Mary Easton.
Thank you, Councillor.
We have Councillor Rajima up next, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you everybody for your presentation. Again, very excited about the theater also. Lauren will remember my daughters went to Maple Grove, and every year there was a play put on by the whole school. Actually, I think it was every other year, but it was a big deal. Every year it was either camping at Cave Springs or a play with the whole school, which is about 55 students, and it was very exciting, and everybody was involved from top to bottom, and great community building. And so I'm very much in support of the theater and excited about it. And I wanted to reiterate, I think, Matt, you mentioned that you're aware that Lincoln Chamber of Commerce will be expressing its support. And so I wanted to let you know that, yes, a letter is coming if you haven't received it already.
We have actually, thank you. Yeah.
Great. Okay. And I also I sit as representative on the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee. So as far as the building itself goes, I'm sure that all points of accessibility will be considered, but I wanted to let you know that there is a committee at the regional level, and one that works on behalf of 5 Niagara municipalities, 3 of them being the West Niagara municipalities, that will be feeding into the school. And all some great expertise there that can give advice onto accessibility that we don't always think of when we think about accessibility. So I'll be happy to have a conversation with you regarding how the Accessibility Committee can be of assistance if needed. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
We have Councillor Miklick up next.
Go ahead, Councillor Miklick.
Thank you very much, Mary, and through you to Matt Miller and to the rest of the delegation. Thank you all for coming. I think it's fantastic. It's fabulous to see this project moving forward. My son went to BDSS as well, and you know, my wife taught at 20 Valley, sending kids to BDSS. So I think, Mr. Miller, you've got a lot of work ahead of you. You're going to be a very busy man, as Mr. Dressinger would agree. With that in mind, the question I have is regarding the skilled trades and the shops, the workshops that you have planned for this building. At what point, when do you see yourself speaking with industry stakeholders like Niagara College or other local businesses to help you and your staff or team plan for the development of your trades and the infrastructure required to make it successful and relevant to today's workforce?
Sure. So we have a very active technological program in the DSBN. We're very active in the tech skills competitions and have close links with Niagara College and the tech organizations themselves. Roy Smith, who's our consultant of tech education, we're already talking about what the shops are going to look like, what their layout is. Canadian Welding Board, for example, has already been in conversations about how to outfit these shops. It's a primary concern for us. We know that it's all going to be there. We know that it's going to be state of the art, that we will continue the great programs we have that feed the trades, specialist high skills majors, Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. They're critical for kids. They're critical for the community. And it's something that we take very seriously and put a lot of energy into. Students at both Beamsville and Grimsby, year in and year out, place in the top medal winning group at various tech skills, from computer engineering and that side of things all the way through welding and manufacturing, construction, you name it. At Beamsville, I know they have a very famous shed building program that they do every year. That'll continue. And yeah, it's tech skills are a massive priority for us.
Very much for that answer. You know, I'm a tradesman myself, and I have a special place in my heart for the trades, and I want to make sure that you know, they're looked after, and you know, students have the best opportunity they can moving forward with that. Thank you very much.
When we open up, I'll take you through and show you all the new stuff.
I'd love the tour.
That'd be great.
And I see Councillor Brunei. Councillor?
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Thank you. To Matt, Jennifer, and Lauren, thank you for your presentation this evening. The passion in all your voices coming through loud and clear. I couldn't agree more with Jennifer's comment that not having a theater would be a huge missed opportunity. You know, whatever this council can do, you know, please let us know. I did receive a call from someone that I was involved back in 2012 with the fundraising for the Fleming Center. So I know behind the scenes, there is already a huge wave occurring. And if you've got organizations like the Chamber and the Rotary Club, I know you'll be successful. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Matt Miller. Matt, I know you're remaining very positive, your enthusiasm. I'm just wondering, through you, Madam Mayor, to Matt Miller, when did you first find out that the theater was not going to be part of the province's funding?
Well, when they announced that we had to go ahead to build on December 23rd, I mean, I'm the school principal, so I wouldn't be the person they call first about any of these matters. I was in on the press conference on the 23rd, where it was announced that the greenhouse and fourth gym would be funded as additional parts of the school, and that the theater had yet to receive approval. But it hasn't been taken out. It has not been canceled. We just need to demonstrate an active fundraising group in order to show we'll be able to support the theater bill.
That's great to hear, Matt. I appreciate that. And through you, Madam Mayor, just a follow-up question that just kind of flows from that question. So Matt, again, I know you said, you know, there's not a drop dead date, there's not a window here, but obviously, you know, we're in February and you're expecting a spring start. So, you know, how important is it that over the next 2 months, I'm really trying to get the message across here that during the next 2 months, you know, if construction activity starts on the site and there's excavators out there starting to dig foundations, you know, I would think that it's critical that we express this, you know, as quickly as possible. I'm just wondering if you could comment on that.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I know that our group is working really hard every single day to get as much support expressed as possible, because we want the approval to come as soon as possible to make sure that it's part of our bill, just as you said.
So through you, Madam Mayor, I would just make one more comment, Matt, and I know you know this, and I know you're surrounding yourself with a team. You've got tremendous responsibilities, obviously, putting this together as a principal. I can assure you that it's a huge job raising funds. It's a huge job. The more people that touch different sectors, you will be successful. There's no doubt in my mind. And in most cases, a lot of people are just a phone call away. Good luck.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, our team has great energy, and I have all the faith in the world that they'll get this done. They're excellent.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Well, while we're talking about support, I just heard from Trustee Elizabeth Clausen. So she's urging us on as well. And so I certainly hope that members of the board are paying attention. Thank you very much, Matt. It's all very interesting. Imagine having a school in our midst. It makes me very emotional when I think of the kind of education that the children, the young people are going to have in our three communities, and so well-rounded. I mean, they will be prepared for their life into the future, and to be able to go to any university and be comfortable with a solid education background, with many life experiences behind them. Those that go into the skilled trades, how impressed we are with the amount of time that we've spent encouraging the ministries to spend money in this area, to get it right, to make sure that when you leave high school, you're ready for college or you're ready for university and you're not going to miss a beat. That is all so very important right now. And of course, that pack of dogs. Now that's going to be so much fun, something to really get behind. And this is an area where many people would have been happy to spend money, to put some money aside and give it to a theater. You won't have any trouble. I'm confident of that. And businesses as well. It's a very exciting proposition. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
And Council, this concludes the presentation portion of the agenda. I have a
Madam
motion
Mayor,
moved
we
by-
have the CAO that has his hand up. I think he wants to say a few words.
Of course, Mr. Kirkopoulos. My apologies. I didn't see you.
Well, I just put my hand up late, and thank you, Madam Mayor,
Okay,
and
go
thanks to
ahead.
the thanks to the team, for being here this evening. I think I'll dovetail and I think validate the comments that council said, and that we're happy to support all of you in your endeavors as it relates to fundraising. I think it's no surprise, as a tourism community, having a live theater option for visitors would be a great addition to our community. And so I think, members of council will know that I've updated you specific as it relates to BDSS in the past. And so a new theater is definitely an element of those conversations moving forward. And so I'll be working with Matt, Stacy, and their teams in the very near future.
Great, thank you very much, CAO. And we know you've been spending a lot of time on this portfolio in a number of different directions. And we're very, very happy that you've taken an interest in this project. I have a motion moved by Councillor Regima, seconded by Councillor Timmers, to receive and file as information the presentation from Mr. Matt Miller of Grimsby Secondary School on February the 8th, 2021. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Brunei,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Regima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
that carries.
All right, now we're moving on, councillors, to the council information packages, and we have 3 items, 10.1, 2, and 3. We'll begin with January 15th council information package. Are there any comments, anything that you wish to have highlighted here? There being nothing, Madam Clerk, we'll move on to January the 22nd.
Seeing none.
And January the 29th.
Seeing none.
All right. I have a motion moved by Councillor Reimer and seconded by Councillor Russell. Receive and file the following council information packages. Council information package January 15th, 2021, January 22nd, 2021, January 29th, 2021. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Councillor Brunei,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Regima, Councillor Regima, you're on mute. And we'll come back to that. Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and I think that Councillor Regima is having difficulties. However, we can, this will pass. Councillor Regima,
Yes.
thank you, and that carries.
All right, now next we're going to be item number 11, and we are considering the Committee of the Whole Minutes budget of January 20th and Committee of the Whole Minutes of February the 1st, 2021. Do members have any comments on either of these items?
And I'm seeing none.
Okay, thank you very much. And I just have the Section 34. It should be noted that council considered all of the written and oral submissions and agrees with the planning report analysis and recommendations in planning reports PD 0621, PD 0821, and PD 0421, and finds that subject to the conditions of approval, the application meets the Planning Act criteria, is consistent with the provincial policy statement, and complies with the growth plan, the Niagara Region official plan, and the purpose and intent of the town official plan. I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson and seconded by Councillor Timmers. Approve the following recommendations from Standing Committee of the Whole Budget Minutes of January 20th, 2021, Committee of the Whole Minutes of February 1st, 2021. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Brunet,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklik,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We now have a notice of motion brought forward by Councillor Rajima and endorsed by Councillor Pachariva with respect to options for securing recycling bin contents. This was first introduced at Special Council on January 18th, and now for consideration. Councillor Rajima, would you like to speak to the motion before Council?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll read the motion. I introduced it a couple of weeks ago, and it's really representative of the pillars in our strategic plan and some of the commitments that we've made toward the environment as a council. And I want to thank also Regional Councillor Foster for his support in this, and he's provided us some information since this motion first came out that the region has done some work, and good on them for doing this. But they've looked into options, I think it was in November of 2019, for options that could help to contain items within recycling bins. So I'll read the motion. Whereas the Council of the Town of Lincoln has, as one of the 4 pillars of its overarching community vision, a priority of ensuring that the Town of Lincoln remain a resilient community through initiatives such as championing environmental stewardship and smart growth by continuing to build public awareness and understanding of its shared responsibility to conserve and protect the environment. And whereas there have been numerous consistent concerns in recent years from residents regarding items escaping recycling bins, particularly on windy days, ultimately littering local private and public property, including fields, woodlands, and lakes and streams, and as a result, having long-term, far-reaching negative environmental health and related financial impacts. And whereas the region of municipality of Niagara recently successfully implemented changes to its waste collection program with goals of diverting away from landfills those items that can be recycled or composted, saving natural resources and reducing impact on climate change. And whereas the Council of the Town of Lincoln, through its established strategic priority of championing environmental stewardship and commitment to conserving and protecting the environment, aims to build on the success of the initiatives undertaken by the regional municipality of Niagara by looking into measures that will not only protect the natural environment by securing recycling bin contents, but that will also have the effect of assisting with the diversion of recyclable items from our landfills. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Lincoln requests that the Niagara region continue to conduct research regarding the feasibility of a pilot project to assist with the securing of recycling bin contents and to share results from the 2019 study, including an analysis of the related operational considerations and also considering funding options such as identifying a local corporate community sponsor. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rajima. Members, do you have any comments to the motion?
First up, we have Councillor Brunet.
Go ahead, Councillor Brunet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I just want to thank Councillor Ringema, Councillor Patrick for bringing this forward. I fully support it. I think it's a great pilot project. Nobody wants to be out chasing their garbage on garbage day and the day after, especially when it's minus whatever. So, fully supportive. I'm just wondering through you, Madam Mayor, to either of the people that are bringing this motion as to what our expectation is in terms of a time frame. Like, obviously, we've been talking about this for a while. I'm just wondering, as we bring these motions forward, do we have an expectation on when we might hear something back? Obviously it's dependent on the region, but I'm just wondering through you, Madam Mayor, our expectations.
All right, Councillor Brunet, I'm going to turn to CAO Kirkopoulos. He's been involved in, we'll see what whether he's found out anything more in his conversations with the region. CAO Kirkopoulos.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, we haven't heard back from the region in terms of an expected timeline, but I suspect I'd like to have something back to you within 2 months, really at the most. I think there's an ability to ask the region their thoughts and their perspective on this. I think review some of the data and analysis that is currently confidential, and I do believe a report's coming forward to regional committee on this particular topic. And so I think once that's received, we'll probably be in a place in the next 6 to 8 weeks to come back and provide council an update.
Councillor Brunet.
That's great. That's great, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate the CAO's comments on that. And I think that's very realistic and yet timely enough that we can move this. So I'll look forward to moving this motion along with my colleagues. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay,
thank you very much. And I would just note in conversation that I've had with Regional Councillor Foster that the current contract does include lids and nets. I'm not sure exactly what all of that means, but we'll see. When you have all spoken, I'm going to give Councillor Foster an opportunity to make reference. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. We have Councillor Russell.
Go ahead, Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, comment first and then a question for staff. Again, I think it is a great idea, Councillor Ringema. Again, I'm glad you brought this forward. Just to staff and probably this be directed to our CAO. Just wondering, again, I'm assuming that the cost of these nets would be relatively inexpensive, or maybe I'm just thinking that they might be relatively inexpensive, but I'm wondering if we've ever considered just maybe as a pilot or until if the region is to adapt this somewhere down the road, but to actually just sell these at cost to individuals as the residents that might be interested in this. I think there's enough green momentum out there that people may want to just go above and beyond and purchase these, and it might be relatively inexpensive for us to help that transaction by kind of finding a focal point at the town hall. Just wondering your thoughts.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Councillor, I agree. I think wholeheartedly both around that movement towards green and that perspective towards green. And also probably cost being very little. While I don't have a cost readily available, I think the first thing we want to do is ensure that from an operational perspective, the contractor is, I think, on board and regional staff are on board with this. And I think once we receive that confirmation back, the implementation is probably slightly easier. It's really kind of from an operational perspective, ensuring that there's support around the table. So I think once we get that confirmation, I think then we'll be able to come back to council and either highlight the cost and or explore opportunities for sponsorship or a combination thereof.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CAO. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I see Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I want to thank Councillor Ringema and Councillor Patrick for bringing this forward. The timing is absolutely outstanding, as myself, my dear wife, and my neighbor chasing our garbage down the street last Friday. during a fairly significant windstorm, and thinking about this particular motion. So I had a question around the spirit of the notice of motion coming forward, and what I took as a made in Lincoln, if you will, initiative, and the actual motion coming forward looks very much like a Niagara Region initiative. And I think my question has been answered with our CAO's most recent comments about the role that the town of Lincoln will play in this, and that we are going to be moving as best we can in concert with the region. So I will leave it as that for now, and it looks like the CAO is going to come back to us in a couple of months with where we go from here. So again, full support for this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor, I would say that possibly the piece that may have changed the way it was a pivot, I think it was this piece about the research that we had not been aware of. And quite rightly, I think the region was trying to do this and trying to get the best outcomes that they could. Councillor Foster and I weren't aware of this. And so once knowing that they had gone that extra step to collect that data, I think that's where you see the motion is really about conducting research, about sharing results, about analysis, about in regard to operations. So I think you fully understand all of that, but I think it did change the complexion of it quite a bit. So, all right. Is there anyone else, Madam Clerk?
I don't see any other hands right now.
All right. Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask councillors, I'm going to ask you to raise your hands to indicate your support. For those that are in support, please raise your hands.
That's to allow for Regional Councillor Foster to speak
I'm
to the
sorry.
item.
I was going to get that consent, that majority vote first, and then I was going to allow him to speak.
Yeah,
right.
so we'll take his comments first, and then we'll go to
Okay.
the vote for the motion.
All right, so I think you understand what Madam Clerk had in mind. So those who are in favor of allowing the Councillor Foster to speak, just raise your hands, please.
And that's good to go.
Okay, thank you very much. And Councillor Foster, would you like to have a few words here?
Sure, and I noticed that none of your staff raised their hands, so thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate that. So I'm really pleased that Diane and JD are bringing forward this particular motion, and in fact, I think it's generally speaking been an issue that all of us have had to deal with for quite some time. Back when I first got onto regional council, this was a fairly significant point that I was bringing up with the region. I have in my hand right now this neti thing, if you guys can see that. I ordered it from a company in England to see what it was like. I used it with my own blue box and it worked just fine, and it did the job. It essentially kept the flying debris from going. And I think I nagged Catherine Habermill enough that they actually went forward with the test. That was mostly in the fairgrounds area. So it came as a bit of a surprise when we were going on. I hadn't realized they were going to do that. And in fact, the study that's coming back in is coming into our committee at the region on the 22nd of February. So when that comes in, we'll be able to release all the data that went on with this. It was kind of I've seen it, but it's a bit of a strange mix on some of the data that's coming back in and through. I would suggest to you that if you pass this evening, I will be making a notice of motion at Public Works at the region, which is coming up in a week and a half. And the idea of that will be to put the region on notice that we want to continue with doing some additional testing as we're going along. So the commentary from Mayor Easton earlier about the contract, I found out from Catherine today that the new contract actually does allow for lids and does allow for the specially made nets to go over top. If they are being used, that is part and parcel of that particular contract. So anyway, I'm quite looking forward to working with the town in this area. This has been a major issue for myself as well, and I'm really pleased you guys are tackling it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. So now, Madam Clerk, now I see Councillor Regina.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had this, Mr. Ken Kowal brought this to my house the other day. So it's another example of initiatives that are being, going to hold it in front of the camera.
Oh,
Just
yeah, that's good. That's good.
There is it. Yep. So this is, he got it from Durham Region, and they're using these as a pilot project to cover up their recycling bins. So I'm going to use it, I think, Wednesday morning, and I'll let you know how it works.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Councillor Foster, would you mind doing a better demonstration of the net? You were a bit quick.
I'm wondering, do I have to put it over my head or something?
No, just hold it up and spread it out a bit. It's not for you. It's for the public. It's for the
Here, I'll move back here.
Public.
So,
okay.
So it has these tabs that are on it. And when you snap it on, the garbage guy, when he comes, just grabs the tabs and it snaps off and they set it to the side.
Okay.
There's also a recommendation that there's a grommet can be used with it on one of the holes that you have with your, or you can tie it through one of the holes that's on the blue box as well. So anyway, it worked very well. I was really quite pleased.
All right, well, that's great. Now, Madam Clerk, any more yellow hands?
I do not see any. Oh,
I do.
Councillor Mickler.
Go ahead, Councillor. I can barely see that yellow.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Through you to Councillor Foster, and thank you, Councillor Regina and Patriva, for bringing this forward as well. Just a question: will this be the only these nettings, these coverings, be the only thing looked at? Because I also feel that the recycling bins themselves, they fly all over the place, and they. Last Friday, being an example, I drove down the North Service Road and it looked like a bomb went off driving along. There's blue plastic bins, debris everywhere. Is there any thoughts of looking further into this, at a regional level than just the securing of these receptacles?
If I can, Madam Mayor, that's a very good question, Councillor Mikulak. The reality is that the region has made a decision that they're continuing with the bins that they're currently using, and there's no plans to be changing that. The one significant change that had been considered was whether you're going to be going to a different type of a solution where you have either A, the machines, or B, the much bigger bins with the lids that are already pre-applied to them. And that was discounted as we were going through the last garbage contract. So,
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Madam Clerk, anyone else?
I don't see anybody else at this time.
All right. Well, I think we've had a good discussion on this. I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunet and seconded by Councillor Patriva. And you've heard the motion, so I won't read it again. Madam Clerk, if you would call out the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Brunet.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Micklick.
Yes.
Councillor Patriva.
Yes, please.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Regina.
Yes, and thank you, everybody.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
And Mayor Easton.
Yes, support.
And that carries.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We're now considering the reports of municipal officers. Thank you very much, Councillor Foster, for participating in that in the previous motion. We're now considering the mayor's report. And good evening, Lincoln, and welcome to the February 8th meeting of the Town of Lincoln Council. First and foremost, I know that I speak for all of my colleagues and the staff at the Town of Lincoln when I say that we extend our deepest sympathy to the family of the little boy who so tragically lost his life in an accident here in our community last week. And he was buried today with his family. And of course, the grief is more than we believe that any family should have to cope with. We were all struck by the immense feeling of grief when we heard of the news. Lincoln is a very connected community, as you know, and when a bright light in our community goes out so tragically, it really does affect everyone. His family appreciates the support that Lincoln has shown them throughout their loss. We pray for them. We stand ready to support you in any way that we can. Regarding COVID-19, we'll hear more from the CAO this evening. We've thankfully seen a drop in cases here in Niagara, and we want to thank everyone for the extra care that they've taken to help minimize the spread of this disease. Your actions are directly contributing to a healthy community for everyone. I'm pleased to report as well that this evening Council has formally approved the 2021 budget with an overall increase of 1.9% on the town's portion of the tax rate. Broken down further, the increase is 0% on the capital budget, 0.9% on the operating budget, and 1% to put money in the bank to be used for future infrastructure needs. This increase will allow us to continue to deliver on our investment into the community, focusing on infrastructure programming and services, and while keeping the rate low as we recognize the effects the pandemic has had on our community overall. Overall, the blended rate, when including the region and education levies, will be 1.75%, and Lincoln contributes roughly a third to this calculation. Thank you to everyone that provided feedback throughout our budget process. I think it was the best effort. Your contributions helped us shape our budget and played a role in deciding where investments were made. Our commitment is to continue to support strong investments into our community with reliable timelines, and our 2021 budget continues to build on our strengths as a community. Lincoln's Council focuses on creating a community that is welcoming, connected, vibrant, and resilient. To us, being a welcoming community means being a place for people and fresh ideas and businesses. A connected community is one that brings all aspects of our lives together, from people, places, and our natural landscape. A vibrant community is one that creates a happy, healthy, and prosperous Lincoln. And a resilient community is one that actively works on building a stronger community that is healthy, safe, and takes the stewardship of our environment. All of these priorities drive the work this council does on your behalf. Recently, we were challenged by the situation that some members of the Lincoln community are of the opinion that council can, at a whim, deny development applications. As a council, we will take responsibility for the confusion on this matter, and will begin to better communicate the role of the municipality as it pertains to both regional and provincial planning policies. Lincoln is unique in that it's layered with planning policy. Of our total land mass, only 7% is eligible for industrial, commercial, and residential development. I know there is confusion out there, which is why I would like this evening, if you would. The first is, what is the responsibility of the municipality in regard to responding to applications for development? And secondly, what methods can we utilize to begin to educate our community on what directs and influences council's decision-making process? Mr. Kirkopoulos, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think I'll probably answer the second question first because it's probably the easier one, albeit I think it's the one that's going to take more work and take more effort, and that is just enhanced communication around all things from a planning perspective. And I think on a number of occasions, staff have answered this question and spoken to what are the minimums that are often set out in the Planning Act. And we know, depending on the application, depending on the scope of the application, that sometimes we have, and we need to continue to go above and beyond those minimums. I think what we need to do is establish some criteria on how that will look moving forward. And I think that's something that planning staff, as well as communication staff and my office will do. And I think we'll be able to present that back to council. I know Mr. Danny's announced that we will be going with a engagement platform called speakuplincoln.ca. It is a platform that a lot of municipalities are using, and it will continue to allow us to engage in a way, using social media, using technology, so that individuals within the community can find ways to make comments and to hear their comments. Of course, I think we all know that. Traditional communication is still essential, and so I think we're going to continue to look at local media, find ways to get that information out there, try to take the decision to the community. I think one of the things we've also learned, however, is that there are some mistakes that I think we need to learn from, and those involve everything from providing enough time for people to comment, but also realizing what matters to people and what doesn't matter, and on top of that, finding a simple way to communicate information. So you'll be hearing more from staff, specifically on the communication of planning applications and planning in general. And then your first question around kind of the planning paradigm or the role municipalities play, I think, Mary Easton, was your question. And I think that the best way I describe it is the municipality plays a regulatory role. And I think when I refer to regulatory, really the best definition for that is looking at compliance with relevant laws, policies, and regulations. So fairly simple. But our role is when applications do come in, to look at those applications. In a lot of cases, we say no, go back to the drawing board before you come to us. One of the things we can't do, however, is simply just say no. When people walk in our door, we are a service provider, and there are statutes and policies within the Planning Act that dictate we need to receive things, and we have timelines by which to respond. And so that really is our role. There are oftentimes staff work with builders, they work with those particular property owners to ensure that information is received. A lot of times, again, as I said, we send people back to the drawing board, or we have opportunities to engage with people so that we can find compromises, and then moving forward, bring those potential solutions, potential compromises in front of council for your input. So, Mary said, I would say that those are my responses, I think, to those two particular questions. I could go on. I know planning staff could go on, but I think regulatory really is the role municipalities play.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karopoulos. And I think it really is a beginning, just some introductory comments and some description, if you will, of the intentions in which we plan to proceed in the future. I would say that many have lived in this community their whole lives, or at least long enough to understand that Lincoln, following amalgamation in 1970, has been a growing community. We've always welcomed newcomers and growth, which has created a place for people to live and contribute to the local economy. Since 2012, growth has been a challenge and a benefit to our community. And anyone who moved here anticipating there would be no growth with the major policy changes of the province really should reevaluate their expectations. And those changes not only drive our actions, but they are an expectation by the province, as you've noted. As I said earlier, we have many layers of planning policy. We have the Greenbelt, we have the Niagara Escarpment Commission, we have the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, and they all provide direction and they provide limitations to energetic growth policies from the province, which impact the region as a whole and Lincoln individually. And we should be taking a deep breath and be happy that we have these limitations, because without them, a good deal of our wonderful landmass would be filled up pretty quickly. Most of us are relieved to know that that growth and need for prosperity will be limited to well-defined areas. The Greenbelt, however, that legislation protects our agricultural landscape, which is a little bit different. And that will not change unless there's a wholesale policy change of the region. And anybody who reads the papers a lot will find out that there are some cracks in this area as well, although we certainly haven't heard anything about Niagara being included in those ministerial orders. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we will begin the process and beginning of the conversation to increase understanding of the role of council when it comes to planning applications. Remember, you live in Lincoln, where everyone strives to be a good neighbor, where children are encouraged to achieve their very best, and this is effectively achieved through positive role models by parents and guardians and the community as a whole. Council and staff are here to serve you, our fellow citizens. We appreciate when you can be respectful to those around you and contribute to our community through public advisory committees and service clubs and youth activities. As a council, we can always do better, and we will do better. Thank you for inviting us into your home this evening. Madam Clerk, would you please call out the vote? Just a moment, I have a motion.
Madam Mayor, the
Yes,
motion.
Madam Clerk, would you read the motion? I don't see
Absolutely,
that.
no problem.
Thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Miklick and seconded by Councillor Reimer to receive and file as information the mayor's report on February the 8th, 2021, and I'll call that vote. Councillor Brunei?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Councillor Miklick?
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva?
Yes.
Councillor Reimer?
Yes.
Councillor Rajima?
Yes.
Councillor Russell?
Yes.
Councillor Timmers?
Yes.
And Mayor Easton.
Forward.
Thank you. That carries.
All right, I now have Councillor Foster here. We're going to have him come forward now, Councillor Foster, to present your regional councillor update.
I'll shift myself in my seat a little closer. First of all, in your discussion, Mayor Easton, about planning, and through you to yourself and also to your staff, a good discussion as you're getting into this about who does what is going to be important. I'm finding it very interesting being a member of the Conservation Authority Board, and some of the commentary that's coming back in and through for example, the NPCA is a commenting agency. They are not the ones that make definitive answers on anything. They are a commenting agency back to the town, as well as to issues at the region as well. So, it's really important to know and understand what all the different pieces of the puzzle within planning are doing. Budget 2021, I'm really pleased to see the town passing your budget this evening. That's great. The region has also passed the budget. The value came in at 1.8%. And just to give you guys a little bit of understanding with how that came about, for the departments within the region itself, there was an operational piece came in at 1%. The capital side of things came in at 1% as well. So they were held in both. Some of the ABCs came in with values higher than was expected. We talked about that at the last meeting. The police board, for instance, came in at 4.3%. And since that's one of the largest portions of the regional budget, that skewered things a bit. We were coming in at a value of about 2.9%. And there was some minor tweaking at the tail end, plus there was some moving of operational stabilization reserves to the budget as well to bring it in at 1.8%. I was satisfied with that in the fact that there was a number of one-time issues that had been identified within the budget enough to make a better justification of doing that. Although, as all of you know, I've never been terribly fussy about using the rate stabilization unless you absolutely need to. A couple of the highlights within it. So as the approval of this budget, the $320 million Niagara Falls wastewater plant is now going to be moving forward. The first step of that is going to be a wide variety of work this year in the neighborhood of about 30 million is going to be spent on some of the front end work in that area. I also wanted to mention the hospital and the fact that we did get our approval for that. And why I'm mentioning it tonight, part of the way that the hospital funding is going to be paid for is going to be out of the difference in growth that we see within Niagara region on a year-over-year basis. So there was agreed during this budget there would be approximately 1.5 million taken out of this budget and put to reserve for hospitals. We're probably looking at higher values over the next couple of years because the South Niagara Hospital will be coming on as well. But anyway, there's a process that we're thinking through with this. One of the things through this entire budget process has been a discussion about debt. Debt levels will increase at the region over the course of the next 5 to 8 years. And then we'll be looking at those leveling off and coming down over the course of the next 10 to 15 years. So, because there's going to be some significant debentures that are going to be going into play because of things like the wastewater treatment plant in Niagara Falls. So, part of the budget process this year, we agreed as a council that we're going to do a thorough review of the financial policies and bring that forward as we're going into the next budget cycle. We're also going to be taking a good look at the reserve system and how we're making use of that and what needs to be done in order to make sure that those are going to be stable over the next number of years. So actually that was a very positive direction that came out of our budget this time around, and that's going to be done within the Corporate Services Committee. And all of the items that were there for Lincoln remained within the budget. So that's good news for us. And the one that I've been hammering away at for a few years now, the Vision Zero infrastructure requirements, that made the cut as well. And so that's going to be good. And I will be bringing more information to this council as we see those coming about. And I do know Director Rael will be in front of your council at some point in the not too distant future to talk about a number of the initiatives that are going on. I was reelected as the Corporate Services Chair, so I'll be doing that particular role for the next 2 years, going up to the next election. The other issue I wanted to talk about this evening was SWIFT. So the announcements were made. And there's a significant amount of fiber going into the ground within Niagara. The overall dollar package came in significantly higher than what we thought it was going to be. The local ISPs have spent more money on this than had been originally expected. So the factor that came into play using the federal and provincial money as well as the money that was put into this originally from the region is very significant. It's like a 13 or 14 times factor on the value, making use of the other levels of government. But there's always a little bit of downside to some of these things. Lincoln, for instance, Bell succeeded in gaining a portion of SWIFT in the Lincoln area, but it's for an area that, for all intents and purposes, is not really going to solve the big problem. I can already hear Councillor Timmers going to be coming up with a question. The reality is that the way that the RFP process for SWIFT worked, the companies came forward to us. We had a very it was a non-political situation. I had no say over who's getting the RFP as it's coming out of the process. In fact, it was all done through technical merit within it. What's happening, we're finding with SWIFT, is that the low-hanging fruit has been caught by the ISPs and put through, and it's leaving some areas still that need additional funding now. I was in a meeting on Friday with the SWIFT board as well as the Western Ontario Wardens Council and a number of MPs and MPPs talking about what's next for SWIFT and the ask for funding. The average number of people per kilometer that's left to be done is quite low. So the actual cost of doing this per household is going to be increasing quite dramatically. So as we get into this quote unquote last mile that's going to be going into place. So anyway, this is going to be a big issue. I'm pushing hard at the region to have additional discussions come into play. I'm relatively confident that the CAO Kirkopoulos has been in a number of discussions on this particular file with other CAOs across Niagara region. The long and the short of it is that we have some big decisions to make as Niagara. Do we continue with SWIFT? Do we go on a Niagara solution? Are the municipalities going to go on their own, et cetera, et cetera? There's just a whole series of things have to come into play. So high on my priority list, all of you know this has been one because of the various things that I've been doing near and dear to my heart. And I am hoping we're going to see some positive things over the course of the next couple of months on this particular file. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Foster. And councillors, any questions of Councillor Foster? Councillor Timmers.
Thank you,
I'm afraid you asked for it, Councillor.
I know. Through you to Regional Councillor Foster. Thanks so much for being here. I think you've been here every month since the new start of council. It's awesome. I've been following SWIFT since it first came around, and it's extremely complicated. There's so many pieces to it, but you've explained it very well. So I kind of understand, but I just have to put this out there anyway. It's just extremely unfortunate to read that it's going into an area that's already, in my opinion, has service. We've got areas in Lincoln that are seriously struggling with service. And when I heard of SWIFT and the initiatives that were coming, I was so excited, thinking that, it would finally get up into our area where we're struggling up in Camden and Tintern and a lot of the rural areas, even above Vineland and all of the areas pretty much in the rural or have somewhat limited, internet. So, but as you were speaking and you said that you're hopeful that in the next couple of months, there could be some more things coming along that perhaps could help us. Is there still hope there?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, the hope clause. Here's the reality on this entire situation. And in fact, I know, for instance, our friends here in Niagara, Enwick, for instance, have got plans in place to be going and doing, a lot more wireless opportunities within our area. I do know that the town of Lincoln has approached the province for ICON funding. There's a bunch of these things that you guys are doing that are very, very positive and that very positive things within the community. What I will say is good with what SWIFT has done, and if you take a look at the entire map of Niagara, there has been some good fiber being put into place to help some areas dramatically. The West Lincoln area, for instance, are going to be making out very, very well from this. Wainfleet, that was a wasteland for fiber, and the reality is that this is going to bring them up at least into the 20th century, if not the 21st. So the reality is that there's some very, very positive things. Even Niagara on the Lake, was a wasteland for broadband, surprisingly outside of, the town center itself. So there's a whole bunch of really, really good stuff going into play. It doesn't particularly help you at this exact moment, but it's when I get into these meetings, I think of you, Lynn, all the time, because I know you want this to come through and get there. So I will be bringing more information to you guys on a monthly basis as I'm coming into these meetings to let you know what is happening with this, because I think it's extremely important.
And thank you for that. That's good. I am glad that you're advocating for our area, and I appreciate that. Mary Stone, I have another question as well. I'm not sure if Mr. Foster wants to answer, or perhaps Director Dave Graham. I've asked this question before about the Camden pumping station upgrades, and I just need a little more detail. What exactly has triggered that, and what is it exactly? I'm not sure who wants to answer that.
I'll let Dave take the shot first, and then I can give what I know afterwards. So,
okay. Dave, Director Graham, can you help the councillor with your question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, and thanks for the question. Yes, the Region of Niagara are going to be doing upgrades to the Camden sanitary sewer pumping station. A lot of it is related to more asset renewal upgrades, condition improvements, and they're also looking at upgrading the pumps as well. So it's a fairly significant amount of work.
Okay, thank you, Director Graham. Is this in connection with the new building that's happening, or the new housing that is coming online? Is that what's triggering this, or this is just upgrades, just maintenance?
I can take that one. No, it has nothing to do with the new building that's going on,
Okay.
Councillor Timmers. This is a process that we're going through and doing upgrades that are finally due within those areas. Things wear out, and so it's better for us to be going and making the changes when we don't have things breaking down. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mary Stone.
Thank you, Councillor. And I believe, Madam Clerk, that Councillor Russell is next.
He is. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Regional Councillor Foster and potentially Director Graham. Question regarding the King Street reconstruction between Durham and Lincoln. Just wondering how that's going to impact that intersection at 30 Road. I know there's been a lot of questions over the last little while about that intersection, and again, particularly the I believe it's the south entrance from 30 onto King. Is that going to be addressed as part of that resurfacing?
Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Yes, it is, councillor. That is a very key component of that project, is to improve the safety of that intersection. So the region will be looking at realignment improvements there to improve the visibility and the overall condition as part of that project.
Okay, thank you very much.
I believe, Madam Clerk, Councillor Mikulik is next.
Correct. Yep.
Go ahead,
Thank you, Mary Easton. Through you to Regional Councillor Rob Foster. Just question you brought up about taking on additional debt. Does the region have a debt ceiling similar to the town of Lincoln, or does it go by, does it follow provincial guidelines with regards to taking on debt? I'm not familiar with the regional component of budgeting.
Through you, Madam Chair, or Madam Mayor. So yeah, the debt ceiling that the region follows is very similar to that of the town of Lincoln. As you know, there's a fairly substantive amount of debt that a municipality can put against their overall revenues that are being taken in. The region is sitting at about 9 to 10% at this point in time. That's going to increase a little bit more But the ceiling level for the region is at approximately 10 to 12%, that they try and they don't want to go beyond that. So as part of their financial policies. So we'll be trying to make sure that that's staying in place. Again, the big thing, and you know, the town of Lincoln, I can speak a little bit from that, having been in your position for about 18 years. You know, the use of debt is an important thing, particularly on key infrastructure within communities. And, you know, right at this moment, we are into some pretty significant key infrastructure that is needed for the long-term future of Niagara region. So, you know, but again, we will be monitoring and making sure that debt levels are appropriate as we're going through this. So, by the way, there's also some retiring debt that's coming into play relatively shortly. And so, you know, again, there's an ebb and flow that goes on with these types of things, Councillor Mikulak.
Thank you. Appreciate your answer. I just wasn't sure if the region had its own certain self-imposed sort of debt ceiling. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And I see no other questions. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor McPherson to receive and file as information Regional Councillor Foster's update on February the 8th, 2021. Madam Clerk, if you would call the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Bernay.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Mikulak,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries.
The next item on the agenda, councillors, is correspondence from the CAO regarding Town of Lincoln COVID-19 update to be received for information. And Mr. Kirkopoulos, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to all members of council. I'm not going to repeat anything that's actually in the update in your agenda packages. And I think the one thing we're always cognizant of when we submit these updates is that COVID and this pandemic and announcements that are forthcoming change at a very frequent basis. And so really, I want to spend a little bit of time tonight talking to you about a few things. One is the announcement that came out this evening around the province relaxing COVID restrictions effective here in Niagara, at least at the time being on February 16th, and really moving us to what we had before, and that was the color COVID-19 response framework, as it's titled. We haven't been given a color here in Niagara. It really will be based on what happens over the next number of days and weeks till we approach February 16th. There has been some, I think, hypothesizing that we may find ourselves in that red lockdown zone. But I do want to share with council and the community and anybody else that's watching that in all of the lockdown zones, retail operations will open. It will allow in-person retail, but there will be capacity limits. So whether it be in the gray that has it at 25% or red that is slightly less restrictive, or even orange, which is even less restrictive, we will likely find ourselves, I think, moving towards what I probably referred to it as earlier as a crawl, walk, run approach to the reopening, assuming numbers do stay low. We're also watching, I think, schools and what's happening. First day back for in-class learning was today. And so I think as it relates specifically to COVID and just the reopening, that's the update I have for you. On the vaccine rollout, that continues to be I think an effort and a work in progress across the province, definitely here in Niagara. As council knows, I am one of the reps on for West Niagara on that particular vaccine task force. And while we've had one meeting to date and have another one scheduled in the next few days, vaccines have been slow to come to Niagara, and I would say across the province. And so vaccine and vaccine rollouts will be really the focus moving forward. And I hope we're in a place, I think, to share more information on that towards the end of February. The other piece that we often speak to council about is really working with our businesses. And as council knows, a number of councillors have been on roundtable calls over the past few days and into the next few days. We have been meeting with our greenhouse sector. We'll be meeting with our winery sector and then moving to advanced manufacturing. We are working with our businesses. A lot of them are trying to pivot, and that's both small business as well as what we often refer to as the mom and pop shops in some of our central business districts. Tourism support is there. Our hometown holiday campaign over the holidays was a success. And again, we continue to promote Shop Lincoln. We continue to promote the Buy Local campaign that's going on. Last but not least, we are continuing to watch expenditures. The EOC team meets weekly. We meet on a regular basis. We're continuing to work to ensure that both expenditures and revenues continue to move forward as we anticipate or as we hope. There is significant advocacy going on at senior levels of government specific to certain stimulus programs and certain government-related programs. And we'll continue to watch those and update council. So I'm available to answer any questions. Mary, send through you to council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kakopoulos. Councillors, do you have any questions of the CEO?
We have Councillor Miklick up first.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mary Easton. Through you to our CAO. Just a question regarding our arenas and what you see in the future. Arenas cost a lot of money to operate, and they've not been operating for at least the last month now. Just when does hockey season traditionally end, and what do you see happening with our arenas in the next short while?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Mikulik. I think a number of councillors will know that this is one of the areas that we are watching. A lot of the municipalities are coordinating amongst ourselves and listening to one another. There has been some conversations that I know are happening beyond just Niagara with the Ontario Hockey Federation and some extensions to the end of May. Typically, we're pulling ice out in end of March, moving into April, and then preparing for what is different programming, dry programming that we often have heading into the summer. Councillor, you mentioned one word that I think sticks out for me, and that is traditionally or typically. This is not traditionally or typically this year, and I think you're going to find, from a sport perspective, I think everybody trying to pivot or find different ways to extend sporting seasons, find a different way to get kids back into activities. And so I think right now we haven't made a decision to pull any ice out. I would say it's probably a mixed bag across here in Niagara. Probably half the municipalities, and I see Director McKay nodding, half the municipalities are probably where we're at and haven't made that decision yet, are taking a wait and see approach. I think if things move forward as scheduled or as anticipated on February 16th, and depending on where we fit in that, in that framework, in that response framework, are we orange, are we red? I think, you may see us look to have some programming potentially in place, but some conversations still need to be had with our local hockey groups. I know staff are talking to them on a fairly regular basis. And then again, looking at what the Ontario Hockey Association and others are doing kind of on a province-wide basis. So you're right, Councillor, they are at times, expensive to operate. They're expensive to operate when the ice is in. They're also expensive to operate when the ice isn't in. And so I think if we can find any ability, even for a short time, to find some revenues there, that'll be something that we look to do.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that response, Mr. Kakopoulos. I just, when talking about extensions of seasons, and I'm just worried about, the soccer season just crossing into different seasons, and just making sure that this idea of extending a hockey season doesn't affect the soccer season or baseball season. So there may be more user groups that need to be discussed with or consulted with to formulate a final solution or a final plan moving forward. Thank you very much.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to to the counselor, just, absolutely, counselor, I think what we're going to try to do as much as possible is work with all user groups of various sorts to make sure that all our infrastructure and amenities are utilized to the best availability of what we have. I think kids and parents want kids back using sports and using our facilities. So great question, and appreciate the comments.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Kokopoulos. I don't see any other hands, Madam Clerk.
I do not.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunei, seconded by Councillor Njima, that correspondence from the CAO regarding Town of Lincoln COVID-19 update be received for information. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Brunei.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson. Councillor McPherson, you're on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries.
We have item number 15, motion to approve bylaws. We have 5 bylaws for consideration tonight. Madam Clerk, I believe it is 2021-14 Z556 that we should be separating out regarding the declarations.
Correct. Now, if we want to separate more, we can, or all.
Okay. All right, members of council.
I have Councillor Miklick with a hand up, as well as Councillor Russell.
Okay, Councillor Miklick, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If possible, can we remove, or can we separate 15.2 as well as 15.3?
So that's
Right.
bylaw, Madam Mayor. That's bylaw 2021-11, and 15.3 is what you had asked for, Councillor Miklick.
Yes, bylaw 2021-12-Z554.
Yep. So if council is agreeable, we can separate them all out, Madam Mayor.
All right, was that it for you, Councillor Miklick? Just give me a second here, Madam Clerk.
That's okay.
You're
Yeah.
done, Councillor, and Councillor Russell?
Thank you, Madam
Do you,
Mayor.
want
Again,
to- do you have a separation, or do you want to speak to what are the bylaws?
well, again, if according to the clerk, if we're going to separate them all out, then that's good as well.
We haven't decided that yet, but you go ahead.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask, because I was going to ask for 2021-13-Z555. So we
Okay,
might as well
all
just-
right, we'll do that. All right then. Well, then let's first find out, are there any comments separate from the issue of how we're going to vote on them? Any comments to any of the motions? Let me ask that just to clear that up. I don't see any hands.
No, I do not.
All right, then Madam Clerk, we'll start with bylaw 2021. First of all, just a moment here. I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell and seconded by Councillor Katarina that leave be given to approve bylaw 2021-10, bylaw to exempt certain lands in registered plan number 30M-451 from part lot control pursuant to section 50 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Vista Ridge Phase 1. Any comments? Your pleasure on the motion?
So I'll call the vote.
All those in favor? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
That's
You have to call
okay.
the vote.
Councillor Brunei.
Abbott.
Councillor Brunei.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you, Councillor Miklick
Yes.
and Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton.
Support.
And that carries. We'll just call a mover and a seconder for the remaining bylaws, Madam Mayor. And if you want, I can read those out if you like.
Go ahead.
Okay, the next bylaw that we have is pertaining to item 15.2, which is that leave be given to approve the following bylaw, 2021-11 bylaw to authorize the execution of a temporary use agreement between the corporation of the town of Lincoln and Dennis and Karen Hodgins, together with any and all mortgages that may be on title at the point of registration of the agreement. Counts, and I will need a mover, please. Councilor Pachariva. And seconded by Councilor Timmers. Thank you. And I'll call that vote. Councilor Brunei.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor McPherson.
Yes.
Councilor Miklick.
No.
Councilor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councilor Reimer.
Yes.
Councilor Regima.
Yes.
Councilor Russell.
No.
Councilor Timmers.
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Support.
And that carries. And the next one that we are dealing with is item 15.3, bylaw number 2021-12 Z554, that leave be given to approve the following bylaw to authorize a temporary use of certain lands for use prohibited by zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1 as amended of the town of Lincoln, Dennis and Karen Hodgins. And I need a mover for that, please.
Hands up, please.
Councilor McPherson. And I need a second.
Councilor Timmers.
Thank you. Councilor Brunei.
Yes.
Councilor McPherson.
Yes.
Councilor Miklick.
No.
Councilor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councilor Reimer.
Yes.
Councilor Regima.
Yes.
Councilor Russell.
No.
Councilor Timmers.
Yes.
And Mayor Easton.
Support.
Thank you. And that carries. The next one is item 15.4. Pertaining to bylaw 2021-13-Z555. And that leave be given to approve the following bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1 as amended of the town of Lincoln, FBF Ontario, Inc. And I'll need a mover for that, please. And Councilor Reimer, thank you. And a seconder, please. Councilor Brunei, thank you. And I'll call the vote. Councilor Brunei.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor McPherson.
Yes.
Councilor Miklick.
Yes.
Councilor Pachariva.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Reimer.
Yes.
Councilor Regima.
Yes.
Councilor Russell.
No.
Councilor Timmers.
Yes.
Councilor Mayor Easton, sorry.
Support.
Thank you. And that carries. And the next one is item last bylaw 15.5, bylaw 2021-14-Z556, which is a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1 as amended the town of Lincoln Vineland Growers Cooperative Limited. And I will remove Councilor Reimer and Councilor Regima as they had declared interest prior to that. And I'll call I need a mover for that. Councilor Pachariva, thank you.
Councilor McPherson has his hand up.
Thank you very much. As a seconder.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Brunei.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor McPherson.
Yes.
Councilor Miklick.
Yes.
Councilor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councilor Russell.
Yes.
Councilor Timmers.
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Support.
And Councilor Reimer and Regima refrained from voting, and that carries. And Mayor Easton, we are now at the motion to confirm proceedings of the council meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I have a motion moved by Councilor Brunei and seconded by Councilor Regima. No, I'm sorry, I do not. I have a motion moved by Councillor Benjima and seconded by Councillor Brunei, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 2021-15. Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of special council at its meeting held Monday, February the 8th, 2021, being read a first, second, and third time, that bylaw number 2021-15 be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Councillor Brunei.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Support.
Thank you, that carries.
Before we adjourn the meeting, do members have any comments?
We have Councillor McPherson up first.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just a question through you to the CAO with regards to the timing of coming back to council on the Jordan Improvement Project. Mike, have you been able to set a timeline so that we can make that public?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor McPherson, staff anticipate coming back on March 1st, Councillor, with both a new presentation and some updated information for council consideration.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Reimer, if you would just take the chair for a moment, I have a comment to make.
Go ahead, Mayor Easton.
Mr. CAO, I would like to request that planning staff come back with, on the matter of the garden suites, to supply clarification on the two-part process that seems to be part of that initiative now, so that we can understand it better. I was going to suggest that possibly we might need a moratorium, but I haven't asked to find out whether we have anyone else in the queue or not. Would you consider that as a direction to provide clarification?
Mr. CAO?
Through you.
Or Director Dale, I guess?
I think I was just going to, sorry, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to the Mayor, I was just going to suggest that I think I see staff nodding, so we can definitely provide that clarification.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. Thank you, Councillor Reimer. Madam Clerk, I have a motion moved by Councillor Renee, seconded by Councillor Reimer, that the special council on February the 8th, 2021 be adjourned at 2000 hours, 8 p.m. I'll be expecting thanks from Councillor Pachariva.
Thank you, and I'll call the vote. Councillor Brunei?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Yes.
That carries.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone.